Today, I had a conversation with Joey Stoneburgh, a dad, a husband, a corrections officer, and a man whose life story is full of twists, struggles, and reflections. Joey opens up about how growing up between two homes left him feeling that he really didn't belong in either one. He shares the struggles of his teen and young adult years, a time when alcohol, substance abuse, and risky behavior could very well have derailed his life. There's an honesty and openness in Joey's conversation, especially as he reflects on how fatherhood reshaped his understanding of masculinity, responsibility, and life itself. This episode is raw, honest, and deeply human. If you're raising children or trying to understand yourself or the men in your life, Joey's story will give you plenty of food for thought. Let's dive in. Too many boys today feel lost, alone, and misunderstood. Too many parents feel the same. Behind today's troubling statistics is a generation of boys longing to be seen, heard, and valued. And yet the conversation around boys' emotional lives is still far too quiet. This new season of Unlocking the Parenting Code is here to change that. This season you'll hear more real conversations with young men, more expert voices on boys' mental health, more solo episodes where I share truths I've learned firsthand, and more wisdom from parents walking this road right now. It's time to open our eyes, open our hearts, and become the change our boys need. Boys aren't broken. They're waiting for us to truly see them, hear them, and stand with them. So tune in to Unlocking the Parenting Code for real conversations, real hope, and a new path forward for our boys. It's time. They're ready. Are we? Welcome back to Unlocking the Parenting Code, all about boys. I'm your host, Kathy, and today I'm welcoming Joey Stoneburgh. Joey is originally from Huntsville, Ontario, and now lives in Edmonton, Alberta, with his wife and daughter. Family is at the heart of everything he does, and being part of a loving home is what brings him the most joy. He has spent the last 13 years working as a corrections officer at the Edmonton Remand Centre, Canada's largest institution. Outside of work, Joey stays active with jiu-jitsu and weight training. He's also the host of a podcast where he interviews people from all walks of life who inspire or interest him. Welcome to the show, Joey.
Hello, Kathy. Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time and being on your show.
It's my pleasure. Joey, if someone were going to meet you for the first time and wanted to know who you are, not just what you do, what would you want them to know?
Well, I'd want them to know that I'm a caring person. I want to be inclusive to people. I'd like people to feel welcome and warm around me. I like to make people laugh. I just want to be lighthearted, and I always enjoy just to know people. I like talking. I love chatting with people and getting to know who people are.
What would you say your core values are?
Um, I'm very honest. I like to think I have like integrity. I take that very strongly. Like I really I don't like being lied to, or being misled. And I think that's kind of what led me into my career in law enforcement because it kind of aligns with their core values like honesty, integrity. A lot of those things I found in my life, like I'm really one of those people. I do not like injustice.
Mhm.
So I think that's kind of what led me to the kind of career path I ended up being in.
Well, that's kind of interesting. What do you find? I am jumping completely now, but as like going back to like just what you're saying about the job that you're in. Um, I've known people who have worked in policing is what they worked in. It wasn't corrections, but that's very similar work. But what I found was some of the people, especially people on the force who'd been there for a while, and especially when they started doing undercover work. And I think because they were seeing the worst of the worst as far as the situations of humankind, um, they often struggled with their own mental health, with their own ability to cope with all the negativity. And And sometimes their personalities started to change. What what
Um,
have you like how's that been for you? You've been there a long time, so you would know.
yeah, I mean, it definitely does influence change in people. So like I was saying earlier, I don't like being lied to, and I find like the people I deal with that they live in like defense their whole life. They've had to lie, cheat, steal, sometimes kill other people. Like they have these people live like kind of like in a barbaric lifestyle, and I just I don't know. I've been able to deal with that pretty well over my life. I fell into a spout of depression, and like a lot of people do there, but I was able to luckily. I stopped drinking alcohol. I found like these were like triggers. There was different triggers I was getting involved with. So I decided to find a way out of that. And I had a good friend introduce me to, because he's like, you got to try something, man. Like, why come try jujitsu? So I had all these different outlets, and then I met my wife, and she was very good influence on me. And having a daughter that gave me some light at the end of the tunnel, kind of to say, you have to find something that can keep your mind occupied. And if you think about all the negativities all the time, it's easy to really like fall into that, like get pulled into that tsunami.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that.
Mm. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. So now I want to jump back, and I want to know a little bit more about like what would you say are the highlights of your childhood?
Oh, um, well, I had a really good childhood. Like my parents were very hardworking people. Actually, just the bonds I had with like my brother and my sister, they're both wonderful people. My sister actually has three boys now, so she's kind of reliving her youth again. We used to make fun of her. You end up having like sons because she dealt with my brother and I. And then like I would say like some of the highlights of my childhood were actually just memories of looking back, just spending time with like my brother, my sister, and my mom, and my dad and I driving to hockey. There's so many like wonderful times we shared, but like sports, being involved in sports was a real big highlight for me. I'm very competitive, and I find a lot of young men are like it's
Yeah.
competition's kind of bred into to young boys, like to be the best, like be the toughest out there. And yeah, there's this. I could go on all day about this, but yeah, this is some of the things for me were my siblings and my friends.
So what would you say is what was the best and what was the worst about growing up the way you did?
Mm. Well, the best was that I got my younger brother out of a situation like I what was actually part of the worst part of my life. My parents divorced when I was two, and I used to have to go back and forth to different households. So like I had basically two moms and two dads, and different personalities I had to deal with. So I kind of had to become a different person at each household. It was a difficult it's a difficult way to grow up for children because then you're seeing these other people acting a different way, and you have to act a different way in a different house, or it's okay to do one thing here. It was very confusing. That was something I did not enjoy. And then people would be like, "Ooh, but you get two Christmases." But that's not something that was like important to me. Like I didn't like feeling like I was a burden on people. It'd be like, "Oh, damn, now we have to go drop you off with child exchange time here." Like, oh, and I was like, "Ooh." Like it's just like it wasn't a good feeling. That's something that I didn't enjoy, but I understand that when people aren't a good match, that it's probably worse if two people stay together for the sake of children. So it's not something I enjoy. I didn't enjoy being from a split family.
You got to travel back and forth with your siblings though, right? So that must have been a
Oh,
plus.
well, no, sorry. So my brother's my half brother. And
Okay.
then so he stayed with my mom and her new husband. He was my younger brother. I have one full sibling, my sister, my older sister. And she was kind of like my second mom. Like she was like very protective of me, like get dressed, brush your teeth. And then my dad and his wife had two other daughters as well. And those are my two half sisters. So it was
Okay.
quite, they're quite younger than me. Like one's 14 years younger than me, and one's 10 years younger than me. So there's quite the age gap. I know them, but we didn't really have that bonding period when we were kids like I did with my brother and my sister.
Have you ever thought, what kind of an impact that lifestyle had on you as you became a young man?
Well, I was talking about this today with my wife actually. I just said like I because I didn't really felt like I belonged anywhere. I kind of felt like I was like it's hard to explain like of course people love you. And I actually had conversations with my both my step parents, my long-term stepfather and my stepmother. And I said I hate to say this, but I know that you can't love someone else's child as much as you love yours. And if two kids were falling off the cliff, biology is going to influence you to grab your child first, which is I'm completely okay with that and I forgive you. But like it kind of used to make me feel like I wasn't cared about as much as my other siblings, which I'm sure like most people are going to say, oh, that's not true, but it's just in my mind and like from my thinking, it's just human nature to love your own offspring. And maybe they didn't feel that way, but that's just how I felt.
So how did that play out in your younger years, like as far as, your teens, your early 20s?
Oh, I had kind of like I used to stay out a lot and disappear in my early teens. And I would just tell my dad, be like, yeah, I'm at my mom's house. I tell my mom I'm at my dad's house, and there was no communication between them really. And I kind of got in trouble, and I got started partying with friends and drinking, and like we were talking about earlier, like started using marijuana, and it was just kind of like an escape for me to like, and like to feel like I was part of something, like those people, like just being in that group of friends, and like maybe feeling something I wasn't feeling at home. But like my parents love me. Both my parents are fantastic people. Like my dad's a wonderful man. Like he's very kind. Like he's smart. My mom's fantastic. Like she's the nicest woman in the world to me. Like she's I could never ask for a better mother. But that's just how you feel. Like you feel neglected
Yeah.
at a young age. And then now that I'm older in my early 20s, like as I moved on, I actually moved to Alberta when I was 20 years old. So I've been gone. I'm 34 now. So I've been here for 14 years. So I kind of just came here and just started, and I became like a workaholic. Like I just traded one thing in for another. Just like I'm gonna work overtime. Like I'm gonna buy a truck. I'm gonna buy a house. I'm gonna have all these wonderful things, and maybe someone will love me when I have everything. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's hard to describe.
Well, no, it's very understandable. And yeah, it's not hard to understand at all. And the whole like trying to find a way to get through the days and everything. Workaholics are like that's a very common um, tool, I would say, a strategy, because often the minute that you stop or you're quiet or you're calm, then all the emotions come out, and sometimes they're just too hard to deal with. So you keep on the what do you call it, on the treadmill, and then you don't have to face it. But yeah, that's it's a hard way to be as well. Tell me a little bit, and maybe it connects, maybe it doesn't, but you had you had shared that your family was religious and that your mom took you to a program called Redemption, and
Yep.
it impacted you enough that you've got a tattoo with that on someplace on your body. Tell me the story about the religious part of your world.
So actually I used to go to church like with my mom, and my dad's grandparents were religious, but my mom was probably the biggest influence in that. So she used to be like, "You should come to church." And I would be like, "Oh no, ha, ha, ha," like the Simpsons, kind of like the Simpsons. I'm
Yeah.
sure you do. It's like, "Oh no, church." But then it was like one day I was out with some friends, and I kind of like I literally like was like sleeping outside that night, like my butt like on the ground, and like I was totally wasted. And then my buddy dropped me off in the morning, and my mom saw me like laying out by the mailbox on the ground, and she was like, she's like, "I think you should come to church with me." And I was like, something told me, he's like, just go. So I went there all hungover, and I'm wearing a shirt that says Jesus Saves on it. And I walk into the church, and it just happened to be called Redemption. It was about ex drug addicts and alcoholics, and they were all there telling their stories. And it was like, at that point, I was like, you know what? Maybe someone's trying to tell me something. Like this is maybe a message.
Mm.
Like I can't believe this happened. It's so ironic. It was like it's like wow. And then years passed, and then one day I was in the jail, and there was this one particular individual, like just before FOIP reasons and like defamation, I can't name names of people,
Yeah.
but this individual, like it was like one of the most evil people I've ever seen in my life. And when I looked into his eyes, like it sent like all the hairs on my body stood up, and it really like pushed like I'm like wow, like there is a God, because if there's something this evil, there has to be a God too. Like I just looked in this guy's eyes, was like looking into a shark's eyes, like just I was like, you know what? Like, and that really like triggered me to be like, yeah, I know there's something. There has to be God,
So
and
tell me a little bit more about like what did redemption, what did that actually look like? Like why did it have such a big impact on you?
well, like just because of like just the way I was carrying on as a youth and like some of the people I was involved with, like I always said, like if I didn't work in a jail, I would have probably been an inmate in the jail.
Mhm.
Like it's like a very fine line that people walk in their lives that you could have went one way or the other. One bad decision, my life could have been totally different. And a lot of my friends I spent time with in school, a lot of them were incarcerated by the time we were 18 for just different reasons. And I was like, wow. So I just remembered that the bunch of those guys talking at the church about like, not drinking. And then when I was here in Edmonton, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to try to like be better. I'm not gonna. I want to get away from like drinking and like the use of pot and all this stuff. And I was like, so I just got tattooed on my forearm. I was like, I think I can redeem myself, and everybody has a second chance. And it really sparks conversation in the jail,
Yeah.
like because especially the inmates like, hey, you got forgiveness and redemption. Like, what's your story? I'm like, none of your business. But like if someone I care about or asks or it can
Mm.
help people, I kind of like, hey, like I'll explain everything. But I think that was kind of the point where that came
Mm.
from, just redemption.
Cool. Another thing that you said was that what you wrote was setting boundaries to protect myself is something I've learned in life. What did that mean?
Well, just I just found that I used to like kind of be like I would just kind of go along with like whoever. My friend would be like, hey, let's go do this. Or like I would just do whatever I was told, or just I would let people kind of I felt they're abusing me, and I would just be okay with it. It's just because I wanted their approval, or I just felt like if I could be part of it, or they would like me more. So I had to learn, like even with life, with like even family members and just people trying to guilt you into things, even like I'm like, you know what? If someone's trying to do that to me, I'll love you from over here. Like I'll always love you. And but I'm just gonna keep you. Maybe you stay at that table over there, and I'll wave at you and send my love. But I prefer like I don't spend time with some of those people anymore, or be around people who have made me feel like I'll go say hi and visit for a little bit, but just for some reasons I just decided like, you know what, if you're willing to hurt me and not treat me the way I felt I deserve to be treated, I need to keep boundaries with you and let you know like I stand up for myself now. I'm not a pushover anymore.
That's a hard
That's what
thing to do. I've done that myself too. And what I've found that made it doable and to maintain those boundaries for my own, mental health and stability, it was kind of thinking beforehand, what's the worst case scenario, if I do create this boundary, and then being okay with the worst case, scenario. And it's kind of like it's better than what it is now. So, you know, you have to take care of yourself, but not easy decisions, especially when people are close or their family.
yeah, it is tough. And even for instance, like if people really care about you and they see that you're trying to improve your life and they're mad at you for that, then maybe they weren't your friend after all. Like, or
Well,
maybe,
yeah, there's something that I find, and I still like I'm constantly learning. I find people fascinating, relationships fascinating, and even still, I find that our relationships really are mirrors. And so if, for example, if I find I'm getting really annoyed at my husband because he's doing this, if I really take a step back and think about it, whatever I am not happy about, it's something that I also do, but I don't catch myself. And so it's like this mirror thing. And so when something is really under my skin, it's like, what am I doing? Like, what's my responsibility in this? Like, how am I playing this out? But yeah, it's relationships are very interesting, I find.
That's actually good. That's a really interesting. Actually, you said that. Wow, I like that. I never thought of that.
Well, and I remember like when my son was growing up, like a flip on it a little bit, but I used to tell him very clearly when somebody did something to him, like or said something mean or something like that, that if he just visualized a mirror and held it out, that person is talking to themselves. Like if, if someone is, negatively saying something about your, say, your body type, it's because they've got some hang up about that body type, and that's why they're saying it. So to get to the point, it's not about me, it's about them. And so then you can let things not hit you so deeply because our need for being accepted in community is so strong
Mhm.
that those things especially when you're younger, they can really be painful.
Oh yeah, they can be, and exactly what you're kind of touching on. It's kind of like if like even if someone's a bully, it usually means that maybe their home life or maybe they're being bullied by maybe their parent or
Yeah.
maybe they're not treated so nicely. So now they're just mirroring, sorry, what
Mhm.
they're seeing and being taught.
Yeah. Yeah. It can become a very vicious circle. Thinking in that line a little bit, um, what do you think is your biggest challenge that you face today that people might not talk about or recognize?
Oh, just his, just like you mean like personal life or like at
Yeah,
work or
no.
um
Well, whatever is your biggest challenge.
sometimes my biggest challenge is like I used to like have this like nagging thing in my head that is driving me to be successful. Like I told my wife at one point I was when she while she was we just had our daughter and we were living like in a basement apartment. And I had this like overwhelming feeling all the time like you're a failure, like why are you living like this? Your wife, you shouldn't be living in a basement suite when you're 28 years old. Like you should like you should be a better provider. Like, look, you're failing. You're like it was like very overwhelming. And I talked to my mother about this because like we have like mental health and like suicides in my family. So I was like, like why is this like why am I like this? Like, but sometimes it's been a good thing too because it's like I have this like on thing I like always want to be better. But sometimes it's overwhelming. Like I feel like I could do better. Like I can be the best at everything. Like I want to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drive to the jiu-jitsu gym and make sure I get my training. And if I don't, I feel like I failed myself and I like beat myself up about it all day. That's always been like a good thing. And it's like battling myself. It's very, I thought like maybe it was like a little bizarre, but like a lot of guys I talk to, like who are very driven, they have kind of the same thing. It's like I am my own worst enemy sometimes. It's like don't beat yourself up so much. Like sometimes you need to miss a day. You're tired or but like it's kind of like that on I always wanted I'm very competitive and I want to be good at everything I do. And sometimes I put too much pressure on myself. That's something I've always done.
Well, and often that can lead, besides, the mental part of it, that's often where it's easy to start falling into, numbing out those sensations with things like, alcohol or substance abuse or risky behavior or something because it gets so overwhelming. Some of that too is you mentioned that when your daughter was born, this is, when all this was going on and I just wondered because it's, fairly new information for me, but did you realize at the time that your levels of testosterone were probably dropping close to 30%.
I had no idea. And like actually, I kind of talked about this before. Like I used to be an anabolic abuser when I was like in my early 20s. So I actually my testosterone had dropped so low at one point. My doctor is like, you need to like get on this medication like to get you back up like right now. And then
Mm.
wasn't even aware of like my testosterone may be dropping, but I am getting older. It's known that men's testosterone starts like it peaks in your early 20s to 30s, and then you start kind of declining from there. But I'd
But the
noticed like,
information about it, of it dropping like up to 30% and staying dropped, as long as a father is closely connected with the child, biologically, it makes so much sense because testosterone helps you become a little bit more aggressive, competitive, all those things that are what make men men. And then when you have a child, some of those things need to be tampered down and some of the nurturing things need to be tampered up. So it's like it's biology in perfection. Yeah. But if you don't
wow,
know about it and you're a young dad who's having his first child and your world changes completely, but then on top of that, you're more emotional. You don't feel the same drive that you used to have. But if you don't understand that, I would think it would be turmoil, like in your own, you know, brain.
that's an I didn't even know that. I just learned that from you. I've never heard that. I didn't know anything about
Look it
that.
up. Look it
It
up. Like
makes sense.
it's only been, I don't think it's even been 6 months that I came onto it, and then all the puzzle pieces start falling in place. But it's one of those things like you'd have to do your own research, do due
Hmm.
diligence, make sure that there's enough data to back it up. But it certainly resonates with what I think makes sense and what I see. But what a difference it would make to understand that that's the natural way of things going, and it's what your child needs. When I was raising my son, I longed for a guide, something real, honest, and grounded in what boys truly need. So I created the book that I wish I'd had. Packed with tools and real world strategies that actually work, you'll learn how to nurture his emotional world and finally understand the feelings behind his behavior. Because boys don't need punishment, they need guidance. We'll bust the myths that keep boys boxed in and help you support him through the real challenges of growing up. Most of all, it's about transforming your connection, one small moment at a time. Raising boys who become remarkable men. Get your copy today and let's create a beautiful future together.
I wonder, is that to help men be more nurturing? Is that like the point of it? Like, why would like my testosterone drop? Which is crazy because I didn't even know about that. Now it makes sense because like I faced a lot of issues. Like I know my libido dropped around that time. I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, am I like, what the hell? Like,
Mm.
this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm like, I'm supposed to be like this stud. Like, I'm supposed to be like the man. Like, I don't know what's happening to me. And I did go through a lot of problems around that point. There was like maybe 2 years where I just felt off. And like, I didn't, who would have thought that?
Well, and that's something I try to have more conversations and understand more and read more to try and understand more about testosterone because I don't think, as a society that we really do understand. And, you know, I think it's one of those areas that I think if we understood it better, like how those hormones affect you, like emotion, we pretty much know about the physical part and, you know, things connected with that puberty, all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But to understand the behavioral part of it, that's something I don't think so. And you look at like young boys going through puberty, you know, if they don't have someone who's able to help them understand all the changes that are going on that are directly connected with the surge in testosterone, it's kind of like, they're at a handicap without that knowledge, I think.
Yeah. Like it's good to have a mentor and like have, someone who's lived
Hmm.
through this before and can tell you what's going on. Like I remember like my my mom's ex-husband is my brother's dad. Like she has a new husband now. So like she's been with this guy for like 15 years. He's a nice man, great guy. But my step grandfather at the time, I can still consider him a grandfather. He's like, how old are you now? And I was like, probably like 12 or 13. Like this, I don't know. I don't want to get this might be a little offside, but he like comes down with this big box of like pornographic magazines. And he's like, you're probably old enough to look at these now, aren't you? And he's like, he's like, you aren't going gay on me, are you? And I was just like, what? Like, he was just one of those old school guys. Like this
Yeah.
guy wouldn't hug you. That was kind of how he thought that he was like bonding. He
Yeah.
thought that like shooting guns and like looking at like just giving you a box of nudies is like male bonding. And then he just
You're
took
a
off and
man
just trucked.
now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow. And then I remember my mom burning them all, and like she's like, you can't be looking at this stuff. And but like at the time, I was like, oh, like I'm a man now. Like this is crazy. Like you said, and I just remember that being a time like that was kind of like the guidance that I was receiving. Then my dad, like my grandmother, like, have you kissed a girl yet? And like I was around 14, I was like 13. I was like, I was kind of like not really too excited to talk about that with my grandmother, but it was like embarrassing. But
But you
a lot of
see,
people didn't
if
even
the
talk.
that's right. If people weren't so hung up on it, it wouldn't be an embarrassment. I just interviewed somebody a little bit ago. The episode hasn't come out yet. And he was talking about how he talks about sexuality to his boys. And when he was talking about it, it was just kind of, you know, if all boys could get that same just clear, kind of no frills understanding, so that they would understand that, this is something that, almost all males go through, like your dad goes through, your grandfather went through, and this is what it's all about, without the shame and the guilt and the fear of, not being whatever, if you want to talk about those things. But I think times are changing, which is a very it's very optimistic, I think, but there sure is a lot more work to go. I have a
Well, in my
question
high
that,
school,
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say in my high school, we were educated about this. Even when I was in like the fifth grade, we had sex education.
I've given
Uh,
those talks. Like, I've
oh,
been the educator in
oh,
the
okay.
classroom that has
Because you were a
given
teacher.
those talk. Yeah. So, and I can remember a year where I found some new information, I was really excited to be able to be a little more open to both the males and the females in the group, and having to explain it to parents to get their permission beforehand. And there were several parents that said, "No, I don't want you talking to my child about that." It just kind of floored me, but so I know in school, but you get the bare minimum. And
Mm.
it's usually about the physical parts, not about the emotional part, or really the hormonal part or relationship part. That's sorely lacking.
That's kind of like self-taught a lot of the time. Like you kind of like
Well, and
navigate that.
unfortunately today, where are they getting it? Where, there is a real issue with online pornography. So where are kids getting their understanding of what relationships are, what sexuality is? If it's from that kind of a source, that's tough if you're a parent.
And we're facing like an epidemic actually of like men expecting a lot from young girls and just having this access to
Well,
this
yeah,
stuff.
and thinking that that's the normal way that you have a relationship. It is a serious problem, but that's something that you will have to take on board with your daughter as she's growing up a little bit, thinking a little bit about that. What's something that, a fear, a fear that you carry about the future that maybe people don't know about yet, but it's something inside you about the future that you're a little bit afraid about?
Well, once again, is this just for my personal life or like, or just for like the
Either.
society in general? One thing I've noticed, like a lot of people like nowadays, for instance, like I'm really there. People look down on women for being mothers and nurturers, and like I was listening to this one podcast where the one guy was saying his wife was very successful Google like person. She was very high up, and then they were walking through Costco and they ran into some friends and they're like, "Oh, like what have you been up to? Like what do you do now?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just a mom." And I was just listening to like one of my favorite UFC fighters. He was actually talking about how it's so amazing to have your wife raise your children in the home, and then people are so hung up on these like it's that's not good enough, and it's like shameful to want to be like the traditional roles of family, like to have your mother stay home and your father goes out and works. And my like I love that idea. Like I think I had an idea if I was to ever get into government power, I would pay mothers to stay home with their kids. Like I think that like you should be paid like 70 to $80,000 a year to be a stay-at-home mom. Because in my opinion, it's a full-time job. And that's part of the problem with today's society, I believe. Because of these like social norms and back in like the 1950s and 60s, the mom stayed home with the kids and the kids were raised. And I think that people were like raised better and like had better morals and everything because they were there with their mom. Not mom's not at work till 6 o'clock at night. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with women working, and like I think it's fantastic. But
So
I
let
just
me
think
tell
that
you what I think. You're right about, in the 50s and 60s, that certainly was the way that my family worked. And then the next phase was where most families couldn't afford not to have two people working. And that created, a situation that was just, you felt like you didn't have a choice. And then what I've seen recently and what I personally think is like the ideal situation is when a man and a woman can alternate. Like if you're looking at those first, say at least 3 years, but maybe 5 years before your child goes into formal schooling. And if probably the first year, first 2 years, the mom takes off from her career. So from obvious reasons. And then maybe the next 2 years, the dad takes off and he's the full-time caregiver. So that there's a real understanding because honestly, I don't think you can understand the other person's that world unless you experience it. And so in a perfect world, to have both parents be able to participate and understand each other. And I mean, how good is that for a child that they've got, both sets? That's what I think would be the ultimate in the future. And of course, getting paid for it.
yeah, that'd be astronomical. I think that kids would be in a better place because, like, even my dad was a shift worker, 7 to 7.
Mm,
He worked his butt off, and he said to me like one day, he's like, "Hey," and this is something I got scared of, and this is actually why I switched roles in my job, and I was an officer, and now I'm a manager, so I don't have the opportunities to work overtime anymore.
mm,
My dad said to me one day, he's like, "What have you been up to?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm working overtime, working." I was once again diving into my workaholic stuff. And he's like, "Be careful." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, I don't want you to make the mistake I made with you." He's like, "When you were a little kid, I just worked so, and then one day I looked up and you were gone."
yeah.
He's like, "You were moving away." And he's like, "And I'm not going to say on my deathbed, I wish I worked another overtime shift and
Mm,
didn't spend time with my kids." He's like, "I wish I can go back and
yeah.
be around more." And I said, "You know what? But you did so much for like me. I played hockey. Like that's not a cheap sport, traveling, all that
Well,
stuff." And like,
yeah, and I still think that there's, truth in um, it's not always the amount of time you spend, it's the quality of that time. So I think, like I spent much less time with my father than I did my mother. But the time that I was with my father, I still think is golden. And, he's still my kind of hero. So it wasn't the number of hours, it was the quality of the time when he was there. So it can get complicated. So thinking
mhm.
about fatherhood and your daughter is what, 7?
No, she's 6.
6? Okay.
Yeah.
And so how did fatherhood kind of change your understanding of what it means to be a man, about, masculinity.
That's a good question, actually. What happened with me was I just realized that now I am taking care of somebody. Like when she was born in the hospital, I was I think I was like to say immature. And then I felt like I got struck by lightning like that day. Like an energy bolt hit me. And I'm like, wow, I'm a provider, I'm a father. I got someone looking up to me. I want to be here. I want to be home. I have like no desire. Like it's kind of weird, but like, I just want to be home every minute now. I used to kind of look for reasons to go away or now I just want to be present and I want to be a role model for her. I want her to see an example of what a man should be, like how I'm going to treat her mother, how I'm going to treat her, how she deserves to be treated one day. I want her to find like to be with a man who's going to give her everything she deserves. And I just want to make sure that when she sees me, that's like she has something to like have a blueprint for. Because like a lot of girls, I've dated even girls like this in the past, and I know they didn't have a father presence in their life, and it caused like a lot of issues for these people. Like meniscus or whatever it's called, like
Promiscuous?
the
Promiscuous.
promiscuous. Yes, promiscuous. They one girl was very promiscuous. Like she was all behind my back. Like, of the long story, but I found that she just didn't have that confidence in men or whatever she was missing. She was looking for elsewhere that maybe she didn't get as a child from time with her dad. And I just know that if you have a present parents, it's very good for the child's development. If your father's absent, like I don't want to get into it, but like my dad's father wasn't present for him when he was a kid. He left him when he was young with his siblings and moved on and moved away and never came back. So I saw that how it affected my dad. And
Hmm.
like the story he told me, like of him just sitting on the porch waiting for his dad to come home. And it really affects people like one day. And I said, I never want to be that person. I want to be there for my child. I never want her to feel like I don't want to be there for her.
So
So,
then how would you describe healthy masculinity then? When you're talking about you want your daughter to see what a good man is from watching how you live your life, what would you say is healthy masculinity?
well, I'll list off some of the things like it's respectful, strong, willing to sacrifice for your family. There's so many things, and like a lot of these things will be like looked down upon, but there may be a time like not being a violent person, but capable of violence if necessary to protect your loved ones. Like that's one of the main roles of men in our primeval times, like when we were more animal, like not like even for me, like weight training, being healthy, fit, having some combat sports, my role, my job. I have to be aggressive sometimes. I have to like there's time and place to know when you have to do things. Um, just know like not to be like that. Be nurturing with my daughter, caring, be there for her. Let her see that I have emotions too, because like something I just never saw from them. I never really saw like like my stepdad, typical man's man from the day. My dad, I never really, I've only seen my dad like cry once, and like these guys weren't very emotional. And then like I saw some real emotions later in life, and I'm like, wow, these people are vulnerable too. They're not made of
Yeah.
steel. Like they cry too. They get hurt, and this let her see that there is a side to me that is typically not what men were before. That was maybe looked down on.
What about like I've spent almost as many years as you've been alive thinking about, males and the emotional world of males. So I haven't thought so much about a daughter. But just when you were talking and thinking about her growing up and everything, in society, there's always, no, in society, there are lots of negative messages about men,
Mhm.
either from media, from music, but there's constantly negative messages about men. And usually, from the women's perspective, they are the strong ones, they're the smart ones, they're the, anything, they can do, we can do better kind of thing. So, how are you going to handle that? Like when she is growing up and if that's part of her world, like if she's singing this new song that has got a very catchy tune to it, but the lyrics are really derogatory towards males in general, how are you going to handle that?
Well, I was talking about this actually with my wife, and I just want her to know that I think that men and women are actually like the perfect yin and yang. They need to complement each other. Like if my wife is like I've met a lot of women that are very masculine just for the type A personalities that I'm around. A lot of women that are lesbians too. And I find that I need to be with someone who compliments me. Like I kind of want like a woman that's strong and but does realize that you need to let a man be a man too. If you try to, if you're trying to suppress me from manhood and push me down and make me feel like I'm insignificant, I'm not important, you don't need me, I don't need no man, then my outlook is that you're gonna end up being that lady with 15 house cats later by herself in the future. Like, and that's not that I'm being rude or anything, but I just feel like I've met lots of people like that, and they have a hard time being in relationships with people because they feel that the roles aren't important for male and female. I think the female role is just as important as the male role. Like femininity is amazing itself. Like I like even my wife when she dresses up all beautiful and she likes having her hair all pretty and wearing her high shoes and her dresses and stuff. I think that's fantastic. Like I love when she wants to feel like that. And then when she's like, "Hey, can you open this jar for me?" It makes me feel like typical stuff like from back in the day. Like I admire that. There that men and women have some opposite things, and I admire strong women too. I've been around lots of strong women, women in powerful positions. My director is a female at my
Mhm.
job, which would be considerable to the warden. And I was actually raised mostly by women, just from my time in my youth, because my dad was working so much. My stepdad was away in diamond mines and trucking, and but like I respect women, but I do think the roles are just as important. The female role in femininity is just as important as masculinity.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And the same way that if my son was sitting at a table and he was singing that song and it was derogatory around women, I would like to think that I would have a conversation to point out what those words are, because without that awareness, then it's just a repetitive kind of situation that just, it doesn't get any better for anybody. So, okay, again, if we were talking about mental health, what is it that you wish more men would understand about mental health today?
Um, Mental health. So many guys just suffer in silence. Like well, even in like it was kind of like a thing in law enforcement, even in like corrections, that you just kind of if you feel bad about something, you push it way deep and down. You don't bring it up ever again. You're not going to cry for anybody. You're not going to be a wuss or that kind of deal. Um, just for men to share when they're going through a hard time. Like my family member that took his life, I wish that he could have just came out and asked for help. But he felt these people feel too proud, like they don't need help. They can figure it out. Um, it- some people, some things you can't figure out alone. If you're having like those thoughts, intrusive thoughts like that, you need to seek help and let people know what's going on before it's too late. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't want to talk about anything.
Yeah, the statistics are quite staggering, actually. What's something that you have forgiven yourself for?
I've actually had to forgive myself for quite a lot of things, like just in the past. Like I actually was. It's funny. I have that on my other arm. We were talking about the tattoo there. I used to hold like grudges on people, like even I had some hate towards somebody because I felt that they wronged me. And then one day I was like, man, this is hurting me more than they don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
I felt this person did all this injustice to me, did me all these wrongs, like didn't like ruin my life. And I was like, you know what? I just need to forgive that person and move on. And I've had to forgive another person who caused me some turmoil in my youth with, I don't really want to get into that, but I forgave that person too. But that's one of the people who were talking about boundaries. I set boundaries with that person because I feel that I forgive them, but I'm not going to forget what happened.
So these are
And
really good examples of you forgiving people who have done you wrong.
mhm.
But what have you forgiven yourself for?
um, well, forgiving myself for holding these grudges and feeling that way, like I had to forgive
Okay.
myself for that,
Okay.
and not making it to maybe where I wanted to be in life at the time, and being so hard on myself. I had to learn to just forgive yourself for just taking the day off, or forgiveness is so important in life. It's actually just to forgive yourself for things is really important. And it's kind of like a tricky question actually, but it's like an easy one but like tricky at the same time, because I had to
It
forgive
is.
myself like many times.
Yeah.
um but if you can do that, like it can make things good. But I had to forgive myself for feeling that way about those people and those thoughts of like hating somebody.
Hmm.
Because if I can forgive them, I had to forgive myself too, because it was actually the person I was probably hurting. It was hurting me. So that was something I
Yeah.
had to.
Yeah. Forgiveness is a really big thing, because it can eat away at you. Like sometimes, like when I think back, there are some things that I am not proud of from my past. And those mistakes, if I can't forgive myself, they will eat away at me and they'll always be there. But if you really can kind of be a little objective about it and forgive yourself and, move on, it's a lot healthier. Last soul searching question here.
Mhm.
What's the truth about yourself that took you the longest to accept?
Wow. The truth is about myself is that I'm just a human. I am a man, but I'm not unbreakable. I used to think that I was supposed to be something like that society expected me to be. I was expected to be like a like a Conan the Barbarian, have a big truck, and um, I'll have lots of money and have lots of beautiful women. And I had to realize that I had to just realize that the truth about myself is I'm just me, and I accept who I am, and I love who I am now. I didn't love myself so much before when I was younger, but I'm just happy being at home with my wife and my daughter, and that's the truth. I don't need anything to be who what I want to be now. I don't need, it's not possessions or like an image, like
Hmm.
portraying an image to other people. And that's just a lie. It's just like a mask that you put on to show the world something different that you want them to see. And you're not really being yourself. You're not authentically yourself.
Very much so. Before we finish up, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd really like to talk about?
Um, I think we kind of hit on everything that we could. Um, I had a lot of fun chatting with you. It was really interesting. I learned a lot from you, actually. That was
Well,
a good
thank you.
conversation. I
Thank you.
figured I would when I read about you on the internet. Tried to read up on you and see what information I could get. And it was a
Well,
very interesting conversation.
there is one thing that I would like to, because I had someone ask me why I was switching to, instead of solely doing my interviews based on parents, but
Mhm.
switching this season to really focusing on men. And I am finding it fascinating because I think this is where conversations should be happening. Like when we're talking about if you know, the label, the male crisis or things connected with masculinity and mental health and little boys growing up to thrive instead of just surviving. But it's like I want to ask you, as a man now, who's a father, because that's a whole new ball game that opens your heart, opens your world. What what could have made a difference? Like when you look back, you had struggles, which we didn't go into a lot of those today, but I heard from your other interviews, you had some major issues and struggles and challenges in your
Mhm.
life. And so like for another parent to hear your total story and then
Mhm.
try to take something that was going to help them parent their son better, what would it be? Like, what is it that what's the wisdom that from your experiences that would help another parent raising a son or a daughter?
I think all kids ever wanted, they just wanted their parents to be there. Like they just want their parents' affection, their time. And I know it's not all, you can't give 100% of your time because people have to work, they have things going on. They have the, like I realized as I become a parent, I have my things in my life going on too. Like I used to, like kids are kind of, they don't realize that I was kind of, as a child, that's kind of, I think of it as like, that's kind of selfish. Like my thinking towards like I thought my parents were like revolved around me. I didn't really think that they had a life too.
Yeah.
Like my mom, I didn't think that she had dreams and hopes, and my parents had that. But just being with your kids, and I just wish that I just like when I was a kid, I used to walk 10 kilometers to an outdoor rink and walk 10 kilometers home. And like my dream, like I just wanted my dad to come play, but he came a couple times, but he was always working.
Yeah.
Like I just wish that I'm like I saw one guy there with his dad, and I was like, hey, I wish my dad was at the rink with me. And in the end, your kids just really want you to be there. And I try to do that with my daughter, but I'm not perfect. And I'm sure like later in life, she's going to look back and there's going to be criticism to things that I did. And it's always easy to criticize from the outside till you're put in that person's shoes. And I really appreciate my parents, and they did a really good job, I think, forming, like raising me.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more thankful I get for them.
Yeah. Yeah. You really don't understand your parents till you are one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd just say that presence.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with you. Actually, when we moved from Japan, we went to Beirut, and our son had just finished elementary, moving into middle school. When we were here, we needed a two-income. Uh, we were a two-income family in order
Mhm.
to make basic life. And by moving away as a international teacher the reason, one of the biggest reasons in my heart was so that one parent could always be there during those middle school, high school years, because I thought that's a turbulent time. And for at least one parent, always to make it to the soccer games, to the music things, if not two, but I thought it was that important to have the luxury of being able to really be present for your child. So yeah, I agree. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, Joey, where can people get in touch with you, follow you, listen to your podcast, all that kind of stuff?
We have spare bedroom studios. My show is called Prime Joe Time. You can add us on Instagram or Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. And I have my own personal Instagram. It's just my name at Joey Stoneburgh. And I have Facebook too. People really want to reach out and they have any questions. Feel more than free.
Okay. I'll be sure to include all those.
Okay.
So I know how precious time is, and I hope that you feel that I've honored yours today, and it's really been a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you, Joey.
You too. I really appreciate your time. It was awesome. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. I'm not the greatest
Yeah,
computer wizard. And that was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. You have a kindred soul here in that one, so no worries about that. So thank you anyway. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Kathy.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on Unlocking the Parenting Code, all about boys. Be sure to check out Joey's links in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and tune in next week for more conversations about boys and men. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. Every conversation we have here is a step toward raising boys who feel seen, heard, and deeply valued. If you're looking for more support on this journey, I invite you to visit me at sonhoodcoaching.com. You'll find a link in the show notes. And as always, thank you for being part of this important movement. Until next time, take good care.